Welcome back to Bible Shorts, episode 74. That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah. Welcome back. Today's Bible Shorts is another story about the prophet Elijah. It's a retelling of the stories in the Bible about Elijah and the ravens and Elijah's battle on Mount Carmel. That bodacious, God-trusting prophet, Elijah, as told by Charlotte Wheat with illustrations by Nancy H. Briggs. Now, when we read this book, we're going to sound a bit like we're from the American South. Have you met someone who comes from Texas or Tennessee or Georgia? They sound a lot different than those of us who grew up here in the Pacific Northwest. So we're going to pretend we're Southerners. Now, your job in this book is to repeat with me one line out loud that happens over and over in the story. And don't worry, I'll tell you when it's time to say it. And that line is the book's title. That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah. What does bodacious mean? Well, it's a word someone from the South might use to describe a person who is bold and courageous, which is definitely a good word to use about Elijah, right? So are you ready? Let's read together. In a long ago place and a faraway time, mind-boggling things happened when people really trusted God. I mean, really trusted him like, you ready? That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah. Now, King Ahab had a wicked wife called Jezebel. Woo-wee! She flim-flammed Ahab and the people of Israel into worshiping other gods. The one they bowed to the most was Baal. Ooh, they were headed for trouble. When that bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah heard about it, he fussed and fumed and fussed till he worked himself into furious. He tore away to the palace, got in King Ahab's face, and said, "As sure as the God of Israel lives, it is not going to rain. Not now, not nohow, not till God tells it to." And it didn't rain. And it didn't rain. For 3 whole years, it didn't rain. The queen jumped up and had a mad-brained hissy fit, shook her finger at Elijah and yelled, "I'll get you." Our God, who knows all things, told Elijah, "Get out of here now." Then he told that bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah, hide. Even showed him where to go. After Elijah hid out, King Ahab turned bone-breaking, head-splitting mad. He stewed, he stormed, and stomped around something awful. Finally, he ordered his soldiers to find that troublemaker Elijah. You ready? That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah stayed in his cave. Day and night, ravens swooped down to his hidey hole and dropped off bits of bread and meat. And it didn't rain. After a time, the tiny stream dried up, so God sent Elijah to hide in an attic room at a widow's house. With God's help, she kept Elijah alive. 3 crop-killing, weed-wilting years later, God spoke to who? That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah. It's time. Go face Ahab, Elijah. Double dog dare that ornery king to trust in me. Then it'll rain." Good old Elijah ran pell-mell back to the palace, and right off he dared Ahab and those willy-nilly Israelites to a once-and-for-all no-holds-barred prayer duel. Up on Mount Carmel, Elijah said, "Here's the wood and meat for your 450 Baal prophets, Ahab." And then he winked and said, "They must pray for the fire they need." Well, those Baal-loving prophets jumped into praying, "Oh, Baal, answer us." In fact, they prayed all morning, but nothing, nothing happened. So they danced and shouted and caused a real hullabaloo. Come noon, Elijah shouted over their shouting, "He can't hear you." Woo-wee! You should have heard them holler, whoop, and howl. After a time, ready? That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah said, "I guess old Baal's busy. Well, maybe he left the country. No, I know. He's asleep. Wake him up." Those Baal-loving prophets started grinding their teeth and banging their heads, and they yowled. They slashed every which way with their swords. But come evening time, the meat just laid there in a raw heap. They had no fire, no Baal, nothing. That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah stacked up 12 big stones for his altar, dug a big ditch around it, piled his wood on the altar, and plopped hunks of meat on top. Elijah rubbed his hands together and said, "Now slosh some water all over the meat, the wood, and the rocks." They dumped water everywhere. Elijah said, "Do it again." And they did. Again. And they spilled, splashed, and splattered water till it filled the ditch. That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah got up close to the dripping mess, raised his arms, and prayed, "Lord, let these people know you are the God." Great flames fell from heaven, swallowed every bit of the meat, the wood, and rocks, slurped up the ditch water, and left scorched ashes shifting in the wind. Everybody dropped down, pressed their faces into the dirt, and yelled, "The Lord, He is God!" Their shouts rolled across the mountain tops. Elijah turned and said, "Go celebrate, Ahab, 'cause I hear heavy rain coming." That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah kneeled down and waited for the rain. 6 times he sent his servant to look for signs of rain. 6 times the servant called out, "Nothing yet." But on the 7th time, on the 7th try, he shouted, "A cloud as big as my hand just popped up out of the sea." Elijah jumped up and said, "Go, tell King Ahab to hitch up his chariot and get off this mountain before the rain stops him." Ahab scrambled into his chariot and rumbled down the mountain toward Jezreel, 20 miles away. That bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah shoved his robe over his belt and by the power of God ran ahead of Ahab all the way to Jezreel in pouring rain. Woo-wee! Yes, wondrous things happened when people truly trusted God, like that bodacious, God-trusting prophet Elijah. And they still do. What happens next? See you next week for episode 75. Elijah runs away again.